As you've probably heard, I've got an accent. My accent comes from a place called South Africa. I grew up in South Africa. I was born there. My parents were immigrants into South Africa. And then when I was born and grew up there, I was sort of brainwashed there. Okay, we were going through a period in our history, a dark history at that period. And we had this thing called sanctions going on, apartheid going on. And I got brainwashed. Okay, my education was brainwashed. What I saw on TV was brainwashed. And I was lucky enough to start traveling. When I started traveling, I started understanding that everything I'd heard, everything that I'd learned, wasn't exactly true. Okay? It's happening now again to many of you. All right? But you're lucky because you're traveling and you're not as closed. But let me explain to you why. I grew up thinking I was superior to others because of where I was growing up. And as soon as I started traveling, I started to understand that it's not true. Okay? I started to understand that I didn't have to fear everything out there because we believed we could do everything internally. We could produce. We didn't need the world. We could put up these walls and we'd be fine. And it wasn't true. I also then started speaking to older people. And I started to understand there are some older people that had these I really enjoy speaking to older people because you learn so much. But you also learn more from others than others. Okay? There's older people that give you good insights and tell you good things. And there's others that tell you, it was so much better in the past. I miss the good old days. So I started to think, how am I going to overcome this? How am I going to be more positive? Because I'm so much info, so much this. We don't need anybody. And I started to, decide, how am I going to look through all this? Because I started to understand I was a bit of an idiot, okay? And as I traveled, I found other idiots. And I saw that the guys that weren't idiots were the people that were more open-minded, the people that had maybe a little bit more love, a little bit less fear in their hearts. So I decided that's what I want to find out. So I started to look at statistics because everyone said it was better in the past than it is now. And I looked at statistics and I thought, it wasn't that good in the past. I looked at 1800, 200 years ago. And 200 years ago, our life expectancy was 31 years old. So I would be gone. You guys are still all right, but you're getting close to it. Okay. And we look at it now at 82. We looked at how many people went to bed hungry at night. Just 50 years ago, we had extreme poverty in the 50% around the world. It's dropped to around 9%. Not perfect, but it's getting better. I then, like most of you, also travel quite a bit on planes, and at one stage I started worrying about flying planes, like being inside. And I looked at those statistics, and I understood that 1930s, every 10 billion miles of passenger miles, 2,100 people would die. Nowadays, only one dies for that period. So it's improved a lot. Thanks to technology, planes, and probably pilots that don't drink as much as they used to. Okay, so I looked at that. I started looking at smallpox, eradicated, leaded petrol, basically gone. A whole lot of good news that doesn't get told, we don't hear about. It's sort of, we have all this information, but we always find the worst bit of information. I also, looked at people going to higher education. We had, in Portugal, 1967, 50 years ago, we had illiteracy at about 60%. It's now at 97%. We had women going to schools. We have all this kind of improvement going on. So I thought, it can't be that good that in the past. So I'm going to decide to start living now. Now I can see, like some of you looking, but now we've got new problems. We've got this thing called terrorism. So I went back and I looked at facts. Okay, terrorism. I'm going to give you another example. An example that really makes me feel comfortable. Okay? At the moment, we're choosing leaders according to our terrorism, and we're scared and we have fear and all this again. And I looked at it, and in the last 20 years in the USA, all right, where terrorism really as we know, it's spoken about every day, every hour, every minute. Including 9/11, the average amount of people dying out of terrorism has been 152 people a year. Okay? And remember, 9/11 alone was around close to 3,000. All right, so it's not that huge a number, because then I also looked at another number in the same period linked to alcohol deaths. And that goes to 10.4 billion, a billion. Okay? So we're really living with fear of one thing when that one thing is so little. You then tell me, yes, but what about overpopulation? What about global warming? All this. You're right, there's a problem, but we have been improving. We now starting to find solutions. We've got solar power that's dropped down in 50 times in cost over the last 20 years, and it's a real alternative. We've also got our own responsibility. We're starting to, I see it in my kids. They're not wanting to use plastic. They'll carry all the shopping if I forget to take a bag, which is great. It's coming from education, okay? We've got so many solutions coming through. We've got one big thing that really bugs me is that we don't take responsibility for it, because we then look, because we got China, we got India, and they are going to really pollute, and there's going to be huge amounts of global warming. We still produce 6 times more CO2 in the Western world, us, than they do. So it's our responsibility yet again to lower it, because we cannot tell them to stop improving their lives, improving their way of living, and coming up to us just because we don't want them to produce CO2. So again, our responsibility, and it's happening. You know, I looked at numbers which involves reserves around the world, where we've got more reserves now than we ever had. We are starting to look after things. There are big positives coming about. You then tell me fake news. Well, 100%. Fake news, it's a problem. But yet again, it's just like you. You've got fake friends. If you listen to everything they say, you're going to have a problem. You've got to look at it. You've got to find out. You've got to, look for those stats, those facts, because it's your responsibility to start believing the truth. We then go, what about our leaders? We used to have great leaders. And going back to South Africa, we had Nelson Mandela. Unbelievable. We needed someone like that in this world right now. But yet again, we as youngsters, I'm putting myself with you guys today, okay? We don't take responsibility, okay? We're not voting. In Portugal's last election, around 40% of people didn't vote. But then we want to improve. We want to complain when it doesn't improve. We've got to start voting, getting the right people that believe in the same things we do, wanting a similar future, going forward, etc., etc. So from my side, I always look at some of the facts. And now I want to tell you, how do I live personally? How do since I decided that I want to be a happy person, not complain, not always look at the bad side of everything, I started to decide that if I've got nothing good to say, I normally shut up, because that's a good rule, okay? I also try and find people that I admire, and I'm not embarrassed to go up to them and tell them, what I enjoy about you is this, I really admire this, how do you do this? I engage with people that I admire, because the worst thing you can do is stick to people that are no good, because we all know the average of the worst of the 5 people you spend time with. So if you've got 5 zombies, you sort of go that way. And then I also force myself, and that's a little bit more difficult, but people that I don't admire that much, or that I don't think that I can learn much from, I try to find something positive. One thing. It's difficult to find 3. So 1. Okay? And go up to them and tell them, listen, I admire this about you. Because we actually a lot more common, have many more things in common than away from each other. We've also got this thing called technology, this tech and humanity. And all this tech has, as you saw, a lot of those statistics I was giving you, they've happened because of technology. We're living better because of technology. We can talk to people across the world because of technology and all that. So we've got this, and this is also something that we've all of a sudden got in common among all of us. And then we have this other thing that we forget that we also have in common, which is humanity. Okay? Because we still believe that, when something happens, and when we spoke about terrorism going up, in the US, it's really that fraction that I told you. But in places like Afghanistan, Pakistan, it's a big, big portion. And we normally hear about, 50 people passed away due to an act, and we actually don't even feel it. But that's our humanity side going away. So we're building this tech, and we're losing this humanity. And we can't allow that, because we need that humanity to basically give us a good future going forward. Because we're there. We've got, I promise you, it's better than the past. Because every single time I speak, even to my grandparents, and they tell me how the past was, they're not convincing me to go backwards. Now it's up to us with this bit of humanity and this technology that's coming up fast and furious. How do we go forwards? And we don't have to be scared about it. Because the other thing now, AI and the technology. Tim, it's we're not going to have jobs, we're not going to have this. Guys, don't be scared. When I was growing up, we had the TV, and that was the devil. And the TV was going to take over. It had those little things on top. It's the devil. And it didn't, okay? It didn't. I watched it. I watched a lot of TV, the A-Team shows you won't remember. Then we went on to arcades and consoles. That's the end of the world. These kids, it's finished. Now we have social media. You're finished. You're not. We're incredible species. We're amazing. We'll just keep doing solutions, growing, getting better and better and better. The reality is that we do have to disrupt some of our tech, or use our tech to disrupt some of our normal areas of living. And just off the top of my head, education being one of them, where we're still doing things like many years ago, we've got an opportunity to move forward, start changing, carrying on. And if we use tech not to create fear, like we've been doing for a while now, where everything to do with tech is about fear, and we can start to understand that tech doesn't create fear, tech creates solutions. And normally basic human solutions, the best technologies and the ones that are most successful, sort of like came up with solutions that we needed solutions for. And the ones that I've invested that just bomb, normally come up with technology that no one really cares, changes nothing. So if we do that, and we do it properly, and with the right ideas in mind, we've got even a better future. The best is still to come. I really believe it. There's disease X that you read about. Don't worry about it. Honestly, don't worry about it. Every time I start thinking, there's another disease that's going to come, and there's another this, and there's this bomb that might go off, guys, enjoy your lives. Because the truth is as well, you will die. Okay, it doesn't matter if it's at 140 like Linda or earlier, we will die. And it's a very sad, sad world if we live worried about it. And I really tell my kids, and that they don't have to worry about what they're going to do, I want them happy. And to be happy, I tell them they've got to give more than receive. It's all back to basics. You've got to forgive quicker than anyone else. You've got to love more than anyone else. And those are the humanity side. There's no app that helps you with that. All right? And unfortunately, that comes from not just from when you're born, but you've got to build on it. You've got to grow it. Every single time that I start going towards the negative side, or I start seeing something negative, I stop myself and I think there must be an opportunity here. Why is it a negative? And you start looking at the solutions. And that you can build. In the end, if there is screw-ups in this world, if we do not find cures for disease X, like we eradicated smallpox, etc., and all the other things that we've done, it will be your fault. Okay? Because it really is up to you how you're going to think about solutions, how you're going to think what's important for you, who are you going to put leading you. Because that, with experience, is what I see that is important. So guys, like I'm saying, I never looked back. We learn from the past, but I don't ever feel like I'd like to go Back to the Future. Okay, I'm really ready for what's coming up, because I really believe that I've never seen a world and people as capable as you guys are to make solutions, get things even better, and by doing all that, I'll have a better life as well. Okay, so thank you very much. I hope it helps, trying to get you a bit more focused on the positive side, and don't worry about all the things that can kill you. Okay, because I grew up in a country as well, like I said, that we had lots of fears. And honestly, I've never had a shark trying to kill me or a snake trying to do this. And that was all the statistics I used to grow up with, all the time knowing that there's a shark in the ocean, a snake over there, etc., etc. And I'm still here in Portugal where we don't have any killer sharks or any killer snakes. So the world's becoming smaller and we don't have to fear everything we hear. All right, thank you very much. Hope it helps. Okay.